your journey has been phenomenal. You've written books, you've spoken about it, right? So wanted to just sort of for all of us to hear what were some of those challenges, because you did something that nobody else had done before, like you're in some sense a trailblazer. And also, in your leadership style, I wanted to understand a little bit of your leadership style, and you had a special child, so did that influence some bit of your leadership style as well?
Regarding the challenges, see, anybody would have challenges. There's no question. Even you had challenges, I had challenges. My challenges may have been slightly different from yours. But where a woman is concerned, especially in a country like India, women are considered the primary caregivers. And therefore, there is a way that they are brought up. There is a way that, expectations are formed about them. And so, the challenges come from family, the challenges come from society, and the challenges come from the work environment. They come from all of these areas. And if you ask me, did I face those challenges? Yes, I did. In respect of the family, for instance, was there a primacy given to my brother? I would say somewhat, but not really. At least in respect of my father, he was extremely even handed. My mother was a little less so, and I wouldn't blame her for it, because my brother also was born with certain medical issues which required, far more care from her side. But what it did for me was, it allowed me to grow up without being supervised too much. So, though my brother was 2 years my senior, I was forever sort of the person who was responsible for him. And it gave me a way of, sort of developing myself without, too much of, checks and balances, I would say. And to that extent, it was actually a very happy childhood. I never had a problem there. And there were small little things which I have also spoken about in various places, where the equality between us was very well established. For instance, in those days, as your families didn't have so much of disposable income, and therefore hand me downs were quite common. So things like my brother's pullovers, my brother's boots, all of those I got to wear. Okay. But one thing, I used to tell my parents is I will never use his school books. He was just 2 years ahead of me. So the school books would mostly be the same. Because, being a boy, and you would relate to this, his school books were in absolutely terrible condition. There would be lunch stains, there would be mud stains, there would be God knows what, half the pages would be torn. So it was really, really bad, So I used to always say I need a new set of books. And given the fact that the family budget had to be balanced, my mother used to say this is a waste of money. But my father always used to say this is a right. If she will take everything else, but not books. If books is what she wants, she gets a new set of books every time. So, that balance, I think, sort of worked well to form what we were later in life. Similarly, from society, as I would say, there are expectations that, you would conform to certain standards, that you ensure everybody in the home eats before you do, that you are there for planning the menu and looking after the kitchen and things like that. Stuff like that, you have to call your stand on it as early as possible. Okay. And I did that very early in my in the way I interacted with the family, that there were certain things I could do, there were certain things I couldn't do. And I think the family took it well. For instance, my mother-in-law was very, very conservative, and she was very worried about the fact that I didn't have long hair. Okay. So just in order to make her feel comfortable for my marriage, I actually had on one of those false judas. Okay. And the problem was, this was in the suburbs of Calcutta, and there were not that many beauty salons in those days. So having put on that juda, when you go to the husband's house, the festivities go on for 3 days. Okay. So for 3 whole days, I couldn't take it off. And I was like, literally trying to scratch my hair out. But the fact of the matter is, once I had it on, I told her very clearly, look, this is the kind of hair I have, and this is what I'm going to have. But believe me, my mother-in-law, in spite of all of the reservations she had, she was one of the persons who was most proud about my achievements. So, you have to lay it out for them, what you can do and what you can't do. And most of the times they will accept that this is the way things are. As for work, work, I think, is a slightly more difficult place, in the sense that, yes, in the beginning, you need to create that reputation for yourself, because people in the team are always a little afraid that you will prioritize family over work. And therefore, if it comes to a crunch, you won't be available. So you've got to show that you deliver, whether you are there or you're not there. And you need to be able to bring that little differentiation, which may mean a little more hard work. But the fact is that even in the workspace, if you create a reputation, and I used to think I'm very lucky because I stayed in the same organization, so my reputation would precede me. But it's not true, means in the sense that each industry is actually a very closed industry. So the fact is, if you create that uh, early on in your career, then, as you proceed, actually speaking, the path becomes easier and easier. But that is something that needs to be done quite early on in life, in order to make your later journey much more, smoother. And of course, there is a huge role that people play, both as mentors and sponsors in your work area. The mentors are the people that you go to for guidance when you are at the crossroads. The sponsors are the people who actually will push you into the right opportunities, so that your potential can come to light. So you have to have both of this class, and it doesn't matter whether they are men or women. Both have their I would say, both have their specific areas in which they can contribute to your career, and you need to have them. So I think that is definitely there. As for my daughter, you asked about her. I think what she has done most is to make me a far more patient person. I'm basically a very, very impatient person. And in fact, somebody once told me that you are paranoid. So to that extent, I think, what my daughter has done is teach me to be far more patient. Because when I'm teaching her something, I've realized that the things don't work with me in the same way that, it works for others. So to that extent, I think she's had, she's really helped me get a few lessons in life, which probably I would not have got otherwise. But yes, it has taught me a number of things, I think. And I cannot deny that that's been a huge gift to me in my life.
No, I think fascinating to absolutely hear from you.
But one thing I just wanted to check with you. We have a lot of discussions, about inclusion, diversity. In fact, now we are even talking about benchmarking executive pay to the amount of SDG goals that we are actually achieving within the organization. So in Deloitte, what do you do in order to improve your inclusion and diversity target? What are the things that you do that, probably we could take a few pointers from?
No, I think it's a great question, and it's something on top of our mind. And just to give you, about 3 years back, and our leadership team is really all our partners, our directors and EDs in consulting. We had 5 women. That's it. Today we are 44. Right. So, we've come a long way. And what has happened is some myths have been broken, in the sense that women can't travel. Consulting is all about traveling. Women can't network. Women can't sell technology. Right. Just giving you a few things. And all those myths have been broken, because some of our most successful partners in the areas that I spoke are actually all women. Right. So, but what we've done, Arundhati, is one of the things that we've done is we took a little bit of inspiration from a Harvard study. The Harvard study was about unconscious bias. And we built an algorithm around that unconscious bias. So if anybody takes a test, it's a quick rapid fire test, 10 minutes test. And it basically tells you that whether you have biases or not. Because we're all, like you said, right? Women is the primary caregiver, right? So these are biases that are, or whatever, conscious and unconscious biases. And we've now put our whole leadership team through this unconscious bias test. And we are now working to say, okay, where are the areas, for example, they're coming out to, it seems like that they have a bias, and then doing a whole lab and training, but specific to individuals rather than everybody going through a similar thing. So one is trying at least at the top, because, to go through the whole organization may take time. but at least the top, we're saying that let's try to remove these unconscious biases. And conscious, we do a lot of the trainings. The second was, something that you said in your career, right? And what we've made now is we've defined the sponsors and mentors to be different people, and we've said that the sponsor's job is basically to ensure that you help women cross the line, not say, okay, I will just support you, I'll help you, but actually help you cross the line by giving more opportunities, by doing things. So each of our executive actually has in some sense taken two women as they're the sponsorees for two women, and their job is to ensure that they actually cross the line. So really the second thing we do, we've now said that because for us at consulting, we used to lose a lot of people at the manager level, and that's typically when they are getting into marriage or the family way sometimes. So we said that let's sort of start building programs around this at this level, what we call as our STAR program and our DRIVE program. We picked up these two programs to say, because that's where our biggest leakage was actually happening, and really very good talent. Fourth was, COVID was terrible in a number of aspects, but Arundhati, I'll really say, for me, in some sense, COVID has given us the opportunity from an overall inclusion, not just the gender, because today we are saying to our staff and our teams, you can work from anywhere, anytime. So you can work at home, you have to give care to someone else, but you can still work at your timing. So we've allowed flexibility in terms of the timings. The clients are also okay. Earlier clients, especially Indian promoters, used to insist that I would like to see the team sitting in front of me. That has changed as well, because in COVID you had to do that. And we are seeing tier 2, tier 3 cities where generally everybody was in the metro cities, but we are seeing a lot of skill and talent in tier 2, tier 3 cities, including disabled people, including people like the army veterans, for example. So bringing a larger ecosystem. And for us, what is helping is it's really giving a diversity of thought. We are in the solution industry ultimately, but this diversity of opinions from different people is really, really sort of helping us grow. So I think those are a few things that we're doing on the whole inclusion agenda.
What you said at the end about COVID, that there are always a few silver linings that come with the darkest of clouds. I think this is the biggest silver lining. I had tried pushing a platform for people to work from home in 2015. We opened it on 8th of March, that is Women's Day, because I didn't want women who were going on sabbatical to miss out on seniority. It didn't have too many takers, even within the women, because the women who were serving used to feel that why should you allow some people to sit at home and do the same stuff? And the thing is, now we have been proved that this is definitely the way to go. It's just been proved.